Good morning, it's Captain Drew Cavanaugh with Florida Inshore Fishing Charters and Mosquito Lagoon Sight Fishing Charters, located here in East Central Florida near Port Canaveral, Ponce Inlet, Mosquito Lagoon, Indian River, near Cocoa Beach, Daytona Beach, New Smyrna Beach, just east of Orlando. And today what we're going to do is I'm going to work on another series of our How to Catch Redfish, Trout, and Black Drum, our 7-part series here, 6-part series rather. We're going to do part 5 of approach and tactics. We're going to do sub-part 1 of sight fishing, blind fishing, staking out. Then we're going to do, tackle selection, whether you're using a fly fishing or spinning reel. And then we're going to use live, part 3, live or cut bait. So to start off, the approach and tactics part of it. So the way this type of fishing goes, I guess you could apply this with a lot of different types of fishing. The first thing that you want to apply and think of when you're fishing is animal. Animals, number one, or one of their main priorities is survival. So a lot of animals spook easily. I don't care if it's your pet, your cat, your dog, a fish, deer, squirrel, bird, turtle, whatever, it's easy to scare them. So anytime you're out there doing this type of fishing, especially in shallow water backcountry, I've always said, people say, well, what's one thing I want to look for, Captain? And I'm like, well, one thing that these fish get worried about is death from above. And I say it's so shallow out here that these fish can be terrified of shadows. And they're like, what do you mean? I said, watch as the day goes on. You'll see birds fly over and mullets start exploding. Boats go by and they hear that. We have all seen this. Client or you go up to cast and all of a sudden the rod goes in front of the sun and they take off. They spook. Welcome to this type of fishing. It's just something that you're not going to get away from, but eventually you'll evolve into how to control that and understand that. So with the approach and tactics end of it, we have, fishing is such a broad term. It's like hunting, there's many ways to hunt. There's many ways to skin a cat, I guess is the saying. There's many ways to go about fishing. You have flats fishing just means an area. A flat is just a giant flat, just like deep sea fishing, river fishing, stream fishing. Fishing is a very broad term. So the theory of relativity, just because you fish in X spot on the planet doesn't mean you can fish the same in Y spot on the planet. So do think of that when you come here and you start fishing, say you're new to the area. Be willing to understand, accept, and adapt and learn, and that door swings both ways. So one way we fish the flats that I like to specialize in, that I prefer, but it doesn't always work out, is sight fishing the flats. And what sight fishing the flats means is basically I'm out here and I'm pulling a flat and all of a sudden I say, we'll use the name Bob, client Bob. I'll say, Bob, at 1 o'clock I see a tailing redfish 20 feet out. Bob acquires his target, sees the target out there, then what he does at that point in time, makes a cast to it. Now, in theory, hopefully Bob hooks up, reels the fish in, we get a great picture of it. Hence the term sight fishing. It's exhilarating, it's fun, it's stalking animals. It's just a blast. However, there's certain criteria that is required for this to happen. One thing is clean, clear water to see the fish, unless they're tailing or tipping up. Physically see them above the water, reading the water. 2 is clear skies. If the water's crystal clear and it's solid clouds out, the glare can be bad. So that's why I suggest a great pair of polarized sunglasses. There's many brands out there. I wear prescription glasses. I used to wear contacts, so the big pair of glasses that I wore a lot in my whole life were Costa Del Mar's. I would recommend them. They're a great pair of glasses, but there are other manufacturers out there. Now that I'm more comfortable as I get older, I stopped wearing contacts. They were bothering me, and I like my prescription sunglasses. My eyes are able to focus better, and I just feel better. So I'm probably a unique situation to talk about, where to buy glasses and preferences. Because I wear prescriptions. But the buff wear that comes up over the head, it'll block the light out on the sides, and a hat. A hat is so important when sight fishing. without the hat on, we call it the no hat stare. You get people doing that all the time, then all of a sudden you see fish, we got to take this hand away to make the cast. And there you just lost some tactical ability and a tool, just like these are a tool. The buffware's a tool that helps you out get your job done better. So, okay, so you have sight fishing in the flats. Then you have blind casting, and blind casting is just what it sounds like. I don't like to blind cast a lot. The times that I blind cast is I will, at first light, the first hour or so before we get good light to start seeing fish in the morning. This is an example. I love the topwater lure, so you just randomly blind cast it, you know, sandbars, drop-offs. As we start to get light, then if we can, we switch to sight casting. Or if it's cloudy or too rough out and you're really not able to see into the water, due to certain circumstances of Mother Nature, then we'll switch to blind casting, whether it's the topwater, or a jig, or soft plastic, or you know, whatever. Now, normally with the fly rod, we wouldn't do a lot of blind casting with the fly rod. However, I have, where I live at, there's a couple people in here. They're great fly fishermen, extremely professional grade. They're not guides. And I'm sure they're watching this video. They love to blind cast the fly rod, and they do come back and produce. More power to them. That would wear me out doing that all day for nothing, but hey, to each their own. If it makes them happy, it makes you happy, do it. And then the next thing is, versus blind casting, approach and tactics, part 1 here, is staking out. Now, staking out it can be done, but my theory is this. You go to a spot, you anchor down. That same fish that's tailing right there that I showed Bob a few minutes ago, 20 feet away at 1 o'clock, let's say we're staked out near it, we don't know that fish is tailing yet. We throw out 3 rods of cut bait. If that fish is moving around tailing, unless he comes across that bait, we're never going to get the hook up or anything. So staking out does work. I watched a lot of the guides, the trout guys, use pig fish. You know, or throw out live mullet. It works great with kids. Different circumstances, you know, some clients like it. They like to sit down, relax. It's another one of those, okay, to each their own. It's not something I prefer to do, but I can do it and I will do it. It's something that's easily can be done. It's just, I don't know, it's not my thing. And a lot of people that like do this type of fish and they look at the lagoon as a sight fishing paradise, they prefer to do that, but things don't always work out. So you do have bait, you know, staking out, and I guess you could stake out in one spot and just, you know, involve blind casting too with artificial. So that would work. So let's move on to part 2, subpart 2 here, of what kind of tackle we're using. Now, there's only 2 types of tackle out here we're using, and this is where I'm going to start to get the comments and the emails. You got the fly rod, and then you got the spinning rod. Ichnay on the bait caster. Ask a lot of us, saltwater guides, inshore guides. Nobody uses a bait caster out here anymore. It's like the carbureted engine. It's going to the wayside. I don't even know why it's still in existence anymore. There is, in my opinion, there's a few circumstances, cranking off an amberjack off of a reef, pulling your Jeep out of a ditch. Oh, wait a minute, that's a winch. There's really, out here on the flats, the reason why we cannot use bait casters is when you're throwing a little tiny lure that is tiny, 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 you're not getting 1, key, accuracy, 2, you're not getting distance. When you're fishing water that's as deep as this paper, maybe twice that deep, and you're only able to throw 5-6 feet, well, then the fish are further away, because if they're that close to the boat, they'll see the boat. And I'm not going to get into it with bass fishermen. They like to use it, different tactics. It's the same thing as the hunter that likes to use a bow versus I know hunters that use Kalashnikovs or high-powered rifles, you know. So, you know, hey, they're fine, but out here, it just can't be done. And I get clients all the time, they want to bring a bait caster and use it, and they just can't. I let them, they try it, then they're like, yeah, that ain't working. So you got 2 types, the fly rod and the spinning rod. The fly rod we went over. You can see that in tackle selection videos and all that. That's typically out here. If you're a good fly angler, you can use a 6-weight, 7-weight. Typically an 8-weight is probably an all-around, I would say, inshore light tackle fly rod. saltwater fly rod for all of Florida. It'll pretty much tackle all your trout, all your black drum, well, black drum on the flats, redfish on the flats, you know, snook, and then tarpon, you know, you start to get into it, bonefish, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you're going 9, 10, just depends on the size of them. But if you only had to choose one fly rod, I would say an 8 weight. Weight forward floating line, of course, unless you're out there and you know, you're deeper water along the coast or something. Choice of flies, a crab pattern, shrimp pattern, mullet pattern. I've always said you can never go wrong with a shrimp, whether it's a DOA shrimp, a live shrimp if you have to use live bait, or a shrimp fly, because everything eats a shrimp. I eat shrimp, you eat shrimp. Not everything eats a crab, not everything eats a mullet. So you really can't go wrong with a shrimp colored or shrimp pattern fly. You do good. The spinning rod, you can see my light tackle video of rod and reel selection and referral. A 2500 series up in this area, 4000 series, you know, start dealing with dock snook, big snook, backcountry tarpon. Then you start getting into the 6000 series of, you know, offshore stuff, 8000 big tarpon and all that. But for this series of video, we're talking black drum, redfish, trout. A 2500 is probably your best bet. Put 10-pound braid on it, whether it's Power Pro, 15-pound, 20-pound, 25-pound leader, spider hitch, shock, tippet is your best bet. So anything, I personally use Shimano and St. Croix, Shimano reels, St. Croix rods, Ross fly reels, St. Croix fly rods. So you really can't go wrong with that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's move on to the last section here, subsection 3, part 3 here of part 5, live or dead bait. Okay, so now here's the deal with this. I personally prefer artificial, and the reason why I prefer artificial is it stays alive longer. And 2, it stays on the hook longer. And I think of it like this. If there's a fish out there and he's swimming like this, and you make a cast to him, this is his head, right? And your lure lands 20 feet to the right of him behind his tail, and he goes that way, and you look at me, I don't care if you're using a live or dead, or if you're looking at me and you're using artificial bait, and you say, man, Captain, we need bait, that fish ain't eating. I'm going to say, well, no wonder he's not eating. You're nowhere near him. The mouth eats, not the tail. So with that said, it boils down to accuracy. Now, there are times that if I'm out there pulling a flat and I see a black drum, and the drum are very picky, I find using a live shrimp or a peeled shrimp works better, whether it's a cutty, a clam. They're very picky on their you know, artificials. That requires a great presentation, a soft presentation. I call it the Goldilocks cast. You got to be just right. Redfish, I have found if you get it in front of a redfish, they'll eat a turd. Let's put it bluntly. Redfish are not picky. It's all just in the right place, the right time. But, and same with trout, they're very opportunist, like a redfish, almost like a bass, largemouth bass, very opportunist. If it moves, they'll try to eat it. So with the live or artificial bait, the times like a live bait will work. If you've ever tried pigfish on a sandbar, you put piggies out there, and my God, they work for trout. Now the only thing is, practice catch and release, so I don't know why you'd go through 50 bucks worth of pigfish to be catching these trout, release them, catch these trout and release them, especially in this area. The Mosquito lagoons all catch and release. And I don't know, like the only thing you would also use live bait for, like a live mullet that I use, is if I'm bottom fishing, like, I'm sorry, not live mullet, like blue crab, you know, going for jacks and the big grouper that are down there that happen to get it, that kind of stuff. You're not going to sit there with a jig. It's kind of up and down. Or if it's somebody that's their skill level's not good enough to cast and work the rod and reel properly, you know, I'll go out there, kids, anchor down, throw out some live mullet in an area and do that. And some people like to use live bait, and it does work. The problem is, I find that my catch ratio goes up if I search and destroy. Meaning, if I stand here and I put bait out, if we're in the boat right here and I throw bait out, I put one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here, there's a chance we might be sitting here for 6 weeks before we get a bite. And I've gone through this a number of times with clientele. The next thing you know is we're up there. I say, let's go look for some. Usually within 5-10 minutes of pushing the boat around and looking for fish, we see fish. So it's almost a theory of get off your butt and go look for them, you know. But not everybody does that. Not everybody has the boat to do that. Not everybody wants to do that. So I completely understand with that. So with that said, that's pretty much the part 5 here. And well, I'll be putting out part 6 not too long. And it'll be over fish handling. And that'll be a simple one. It's pretty easy. It's pretty basic. Just follow a few rules. So if you're interested in hiring me for a fishing charter, give me a call or send me an email. You can find my website right here. And this is Captain Drew Cavanaugh with Florida Inshore Fishing Charters and Mosquito Lagoon Sight Fishing Charters, and I want everybody to have a great day. Thank you.